Hi everybody, this is the third in the season of How I Left Bulimia Behind, and today I'm going to look at people we love and the quest for perfection, and you will see how they link up as I go on. Again, excuse me, I'm using some notes because I don't want to forget what I plan to say. Now, our family and friends are the people who form us, and not just when we're young. Day by day, relationships shift, we change, other people change, we have effect on people, they have effects on us. Nothing is set in stone. Relationships can grow or decay. Things can and do change very often in our relationships. So when I had bulimia, or when you have an eating disorder, the people that are closest to us are the ones that are most affected by it, even if they don't know about it. And if we decide to tell them, or if we decide to stop, whatever, then they are affected by those decisions as well. Now, it is quite common for people generally to look back at their youth and to look for instances where they were hurt and to then say, well, the reason I have this mental health problem is because I was hurt when I was a child or when I was a young person, and to look for somebody who did something which caused you harm, and then to say, well, that is the reason that I have this. Now, what I'd say is we don't know really what the reasons are. There are some suggestions that it's genetic. There are suggestions that it's based on all the kind of fake body images that we get on social media, and the kind of obsessive desire to be thin. There are suggestions that it's caused by kind of family dynamics, but really in the end, I don't think it does much good to try and work out what caused it, because that doesn't really have much impact on what helps you to leave it behind. If you're going to change something, you need to be looking at what works and what's helping you, not what hurt you so long ago. And I think as well, it's fair to say that most people, most parents, most spouses, most children do their best. If you have a mother who puts you on a diet when you're 8, then that stays with you, of course it does. But the fact is, she might well have been someone who was always heavy through her life and suffered because of it and didn't want her child to suffer the same thing. And vice versa, if you're somebody that's lived through hard times when maybe good food has been difficult to get hold of, I'm thinking of the generation that went through the Second World War, for example, then they will very often want their children to not need anything, to have the best of everything. And that includes, 3 very rich meals every day, because that's their way of giving back to their children and making sure that their children don't suffer what they did. So what I'm saying is, basically, we all do our best. And I don't think that it's helpful for us to lay the blame on anyone about, for what's happened with us. And that means it's not helpful as well to lay the blame on us. It's something that's happened, and it's something that we can change, but like my little helper, but it's not helpful to hold someone else or oneself responsible for it. And this, I think, leads to the very, very important conclusion that it's not your fault. It's nobody's fault. It's not your fault. And this is really the most important thing to realise. You are not to blame. When I've read studies that suggest that genetics are involved, the feeling of relief and joy, it's nobody's fault. I couldn't help it. That is an amazingly freeing feeling when you feel that you are not to blame. And I think that for people with eating disorders, a lot of us feel like we should be perfect. A lot of people with eating disorders are actually very high achievers. They're people that care a lot about other people. They are driven by the need to be perfect, and they tend to be a shoulder to cry on. They achieve in work and in education. They're dutiful children, devoted parents. They're healthy. They eat good food. They exercise. They're stylish. Their houses are wonderful. They're good looking. They're everything. And that is really what we want, isn't it? We want to be all of those things. But it's just not possible. I mean, some of us are going to be overweight. Some of us are not going to do that brilliantly at work or education. Although, given what we're struggling with, maybe we've done really well. We don't need to judge ourselves by these harsh standards. And Muslim people have a saying that only Allah is perfect, only God is perfect. And I really like that saying. And apparently in Muslim art, there is always a small deliberate mistake put in to show that only God is perfect. And you have to think of yourself as an artwork, and you do have one or two errors, but that doesn't mean that you aren't special, and it doesn't mean that you aren't beautiful. You are, but only God is perfect. Remember that. So I think that we have to give up on the quest for perfection, both in ourselves and in the people that we love. And the task of leaving bulimia behind, I think, starts when you start to admit that you have this problem that you might call a little kind of error in the general beauty of you. And I think one of the first steps towards acknowledging this is telling someone. An awful lot of people, it's a deep secret, a shameful secret. And for many years, for me, it was. And it means that you're like giving out all the time, helping others, working hard, looking great, doing exercise. But in the middle, in the centre, there's this core that's hollow because it's not something that's shared with anybody else. And it drains all the joy from you because you have this dreadful secret. Now, when I first told people, and bear in mind this was a long time ago, they were shocked, horrified, and in some cases disgusted. And that was difficult. It was difficult. Hopefully nowadays people know a bit more about eating disorders and they are not so affected by when you tell them. But the good thing about telling people, and it doesn't have to be everybody. I mean, if you feel it's impossible to tell your family, a friend maybe, or a Samaritan on the Samaritan's helpline, or your doctor, whatever, tell someone, because then you'll feel the weight lift from your shoulders. You're not perfect. You can make mistakes, and life is still there for the living. And that's really, really important. Life is for living. It's not for just existing. So what should you ask of your family and friends if you are slowly getting them to know about what you're going to walk away from? Well, I think there are several things that can be very helpful for family and friends to do. If you're an adult, then you do not need them to be policemen or police officers, sorry. They don't need to be watching you while you eat and making comments about either you not eating very much or eating a lot. You don't need that. You're an adult. This is your life. You're going to be working this out your way. Obviously, this does not apply for people under the age of 18, where parents have responsibility, okay? And also, it might not apply if someone is very, very ill. But generally speaking, family and friends are not police officers. They don't have to check up on you. They don't. The whole issue of food does not need to be part of your everyday discourse. It can be if you want to talk about it, but it doesn't need to be. Nobody should remark on your weight or your figure. And I know everybody thinks it's polite not to comment when people have put on weight. But even so, when you've lost weight, and I've done it myself. You see someone walk into a room and you say, "Oh, aren't you slim? You've lost so much weight." And they beam, and it's great. But then when they put on a bit of weight, or when another colleague puts on a bit of weight, there's a kind of slightly embarrassed silence. Now, funnily enough, I used to do a lot of work with refugees, and I remember some people actually telling me with a beaming smile, "Oh, you look so healthy," meaning you've put weight on, which I had. But for them, coming from a situation where food was short and life was hard, it was actually a compliment to say that you've filled out a bit, you're a bit rounder than you were. And luckily I knew that, and I was actually not upset by it. And I think, it's quite interesting looking at different cultures, because in areas where people haven't been so exposed to the Western media, you can still see women in particular eating without any self-consciousness, just enjoying their food. And that is just wonderful, because that's something that we lack. So what should your friends and family do instead? They should feed the person that you are. They should give lots of friendly chats on the phone, online, in person if you can. They should respect your strength, because this is a tough thing that you're walking away from, and they should respect that and praise you for that. And you should try and have time together doing things that you both enjoy. And I've just jotted some things down: films, gigs, theatres, walks, gardening, dancing, poetry, being with animals, TV soaps. Now, I know not all of these are possible yet, but they will be soon. And these are all part of what makes you. And there are lots and lots of other things, like, there's mountaineering and cooking and all sorts of things. But these are what makes you. And your friends and your family, to love you, the real you, need to include those activities with you to feed that real you. And you're trying to build up the person and the relationships that can leave bulimia behind, and valuing all that you can bring to other people, because you are special, and you being you will make them so much happier. Okay, that's it for today. Next time, I'm going to give you some of my tips and hacks for staying in control as you walk away from bulimia. And I look forward to seeing you then. Bye-bye for now, everybody. Love you all.